See Jack rock.
Get a job. Everyone, I'd like to introduce your substitute.
See Jack teach.
The world is run by the man.
Who?
Oh, you don't know the man? The man ruined the ozone, and he kidnapped Shampoo and put her in a chlorine tank, okay?
See Jack.
If the kid gets out of line, I got no problem smacking him in the head.
No.
See Jack.
Okay, so just verbal abuse?
The School of Rock. Rated PG-13. Starts Friday.
I beg your pardon, the School of Rock. I guess we needed to add the there for, I don't know, a little bit of elegance, if you will. I don't know, but Jack Black plays a struggling rock guitarist named Dewey Finn, who is fired from his band and subsequently poses as a substitute teacher at a prestigious prep school. After witnessing the musical talent of the students, Dewey forms a band of fourth graders to attempt to win the upcoming Battle of the Bands and uses winnings to pay his rent. And of course, you know, hilarity and chaos ensues. You're going to have a story like this that's very similar to Dead Poet Society, and of course they're going to find out the liar reveals situation, and normally that would kill a movie when they do this type of stuff, but in the case of School of Rock, it does everything right. It does everything the right way. Like, it's a film that, it proves that not only Jack Black does have a lot of charisma to lead a film like this. I mean, this is his first major starring role in a film, and he makes it work very well here. But not only that, I mean, you got Mike White, who we now know is the person behind stuff like The White Lotus. He wrote Migration recently. He's going to write Despicable Me 4 coming up soon. But this was one of his early films that he wrote, and this is also directed by Richard Linklater, who had not done any of these type of films before, like a more mainstream comedy. He had done stuff like, you know, Dazed and Confused, Before Sunrise, you know, all these different indie films. So this is his first real opportunity to show what he can do with a mainstream project like this, and he makes it work very well here. With what he brings to the table here, he really does add another element to this film. And the film is just likable, too. Jack Black is very likable. You do like a lot of these kids. They're not the typical movie kid characters where they're just there to be just like the cute kid characters. You see a lot of star power with people like Miranda Cosgrove. This was one of her early film roles before eventually became successful with iCarly, and then with the Despicable Me films. You've got a great cast that also includes people like Joan Cusack, who usually will never be bad in any movie. I mean, even the worst movie, she'll turn in probably the best performance of the film. Sarah Silverman is very good in the film as well for the little bit she's in. There's also a lot of cameos in here, especially with Kyle Gass playing one of the teachers. The film itself is just a really good, fun time all the way through, and people ate it up. I mean, it's hard not to see why, because this is just a good, fun, crowd-pleasing type of a film. It's a film that just keeps you on the edge of your seat. It keeps you having a good time all the way through. You do want to see Jack Black complete his goal. You want to see these kids get up there and have their good moment in the spotlight. And it's a very fun film all the way through. I mean, it's a really good, fun film, and it doesn't go that route that you think it's going to go down. You think it's going to go down the route where they're going to win it all. But in a way, it's reminiscent of the Bad News Bears, kind of. It's the original Bad News Bears, which, convincingly enough, this Richard Linklater would later go on to do the Bad News Bears as his next big mainstream film. But we'll get to that one in about 2 years' time when that comes out. But really, there's not much more I can add to this that hasn't already been said already. School of Rock is a masterpiece of comedy gold from Jack Black. And it just shows that the guy has a lot of potential as a leading actor, as he would show later on down the road here. And it's just, what more can you say? It's a great movie. And so with that said, that is School of Rock. Now on to the next movie, and that is Denzel Washington starring in Out of Time.
You see anything?
I don't look like you.
So he was good looking.
Chief Matt Whitlock was supposed to take the fall for murder.
I'm going to send a couple of agents down there this afternoon.
He set me up, but he won't go down without a fight. I'm not running.
What the hell is your problem?
If you shut up, you
Sorry, I can't hear you. You're breaking up. Can you hear me? You hear me now?
Academy Award winner Denzel Washington.
That's the guy. Police officer. Come straight upstairs.
Chief, you okay?
Just do it.
Out of Time. Rated PG-13. Starts Friday.
You know, I've talked about how much I love Denzel Washington. I think he's the greatest actor we have. But I'm starting to realize that he did not always make a ton of great movies. I mean, he can usually save a film, but he was in a stretch right here after Training Day where he made films that were less than spectacular and kind of felt like they were kind of outside of what we expect from him. But he plays Matt Whitlock in here, the police chief of a small town city in Florida, Banyan Key. who's separated from his wife Alex, who's a police homicide detective in Miami, played by Ava Mendes, and he's been having an affair with Anne-Marie Harrison, played by Sanaa Lathan, who's a woman who's separated from her abusive husband Chris, and says she has cancer as well. While the doctor tells her of a new expensive treatment, Matt decides to give her nearly $500,000 in evidence locked up that he sees from a local drug bust. And when Anne and her husband turn up dead only days after naming Chief Whitlock as beneficiary of a $1 million life insurance policy, things start heating up for Whitlock as the evidence his wife Alex is gathering stacks up against him. And as if things couldn't get any worse, the DEA now wants the drug money ASAP. Anxiety runs high for Whitlock as he scrambles to find out who has set him up, and also recovers $500,000 while also trying not to break a sweat or draw any suspicions. He's a man who's way out of his depth, nearly out of his luck, and desperately close to being out of time. And you can just tell, I could just tell as this was ending. This was written by probably somebody who worked at MGM at the time, and this was part of the synopsis they had probably on the main website. I mean, could have been, but what they are missing here is that this is directed by Carl Franklin, and we've talked about some of his movies before, you know, Out of One True Thing, High Crimes, but this is the man who made some great underrated movies. One False Move from about 10 years prior to this, and Devil in a Blue Dress, which was the last movie that Denzel Washington was in, with him as the director, along with Jennifer Beals. And with Devil in the Blue Dress being the great movie that it is, you really look at this movie and you hope that that magic can be back there again. And unfortunately, it just really is not there this time around. And as much as I love Denzel Washington, not even he could probably save this movie. There are a couple of those moments here and there where that badass Denzel Washington comes out in full force, but even then, they're very few and far between. Plus, the mystery really is not all that impressive by any means necessary. The film overall just feels like it's a generic mystery thriller, and unlike Devil in a Blue Dress, you could kind of predict everything that's going to happen at this point. You could figure out, you know, who's working for who, what the big twist is going to be, and it just really doesn't work out when it's all said and done. There's just so much possibility with what they could have done here, and it's just like, it just doesn't really work as well as they probably should have. I mean, it's a film that you expect so much more because the talent on board here is so damn good, and Denzel Washington can usually save any movie he's in, but this is just one where it's just like, kind of like with John Q, probably a good idea on paper, but just when it's all said and done, it just doesn't quite live up to what it could have been. A film that could have been really something special, and unfortunately, it just wasn't there this time around. And it just really hurts me to say that, because I do like a lot of Denzel Washington's movies, but this is definitely one of those lesser films of his. It just feels like he was just taking a paycheck and not really doing a whole lot there to really elevate this to another level. Like I said, there are times when he does get that badassness that we like about him so much, some great one-liners, but even then, it's not enough to save the film in general. So it is definitely a major letdown compared to the last time these two worked together with The Devil in a Blue Dress. So yeah, a very mixed but mostly negative opinion on Out of Time. So let's go ahead and wrap this up by taking a look at the last one we have here, Val Kilmer as porn star John Holmes in Wonderland.
Hi everybody, I'm John Holmes. Who's John Holmes?
Holmes is one of the biggest stars in the X-rated film industry.
Val Kilmer, Kate Bosworth, Josh Lucas, Dylan McDermott, Lisa Kudrow, but I'm a taster. Sir Colonial.
So Val Kilmer plays the role of John Holmes, a famous pornographic film star and suspected accomplice in 4 grisly murders committed to a house at 8763 Wonderland Avenue in the Laurel Canyon section of Los Angeles. What the film uses is a non-linear Rashomon-style narrative structure to present conflicting accounts of the murders from different perspectives. And you see the stacked cast they have here. Not just Kilmer, but Kate Bosworth, Dylan McDermott, Carrie Fisher, Lisa Kudrow, Josh Lucas, Christina Applegate, Tim Blake Nelson, Janine Garofalo, Eric Bogosian, Frankie G. A lot of talent involved in this film. A lot of good ideas in general here, but the acting overall is good. The rest of the film really is not. And like I said, and I was talking about Lisa Kudrow in this, I think she is definitely one of the strongest things about the movie. In fact, the acting all around is very good, with Lisa Kudrow, Val Kilmer, and Kate Bosworth really elevating this film to a level I would say, watch it for the performances. If you're watching it for everything else, you're going to be really let down by it, because it's a film that has a lot of noble ideas to it, an intriguing way of presenting the story in general, but it just doesn't live up to the hype that this film could really live up to. It's a film that, there's so much about John Holmes' story that the fact that they don't even bring up the fact that the guy died of AIDS in 1988. Like, he contracted the AIDS virus, I think, around 84, 85, if I'm not mistaken. And the film doesn't really cover that element of Holmes' life, which I think that's something that should be addressed. I think that should be something that could be very interesting to hear about, like how this guy went from being one of the biggest porn stars ever to dying of a serious disease that was spreading all over the place back then. But it never really does that. It just tries to go for more of the fact that he was supposedly involved in these 4 different murders happening in this one area, and it's pretty substandard stuff. The mystery aspect of it is not that interesting. Kind of like Without a Time, it's pretty much a film that has some good ideas to it, but not enough to really carry the film over as something that is a must-watch. For a one-time watch, just to see the really good performances, I think it does carry itself to that level, but you're never going to watch this again afterwards. But like I said, for Lisa Kudrow, especially for Lisa Kudrow, she needed this after Marcy X. I mean, the film may not be that great, but here she shows that, yeah, she's a pretty damn good actress, and I mean, she does really have a lot of good things about her performance in this film that really elevates this to a level that I would say for a one-time watch, it's fine for what it is, but you're never going to want to watch this again after the first time around. So that is Wonderland.
On my wedding, they killed everyone I loved. I couldn't just turn the other cheek. But hey, I'm not that kind of girl. It's mercy, compassion, and forgiveness I lack.
That's my girl.
You have any choice?
Kill Bill Volume 1 is, of course, the story of Uma Thurman playing a bride who swears revenge on a group of assassins. They're played by Lucy Liu, Michael Madsen, Daryl Hannah, and Vivica A. Fox, and their leader, Bill, played by David Carradine, after they try to kill her and her unborn child. Her journey takes her to Tokyo, where she battles the Yakuza, and eventually meets up with Vivica A. Fox in her home, and leads to a battle between the two of them. And as you can tell, the film is very much an homage to, pretty much everything Quentin Tarantino loves. I mean, grindhouse cinema, martial arts films, samurai cinema, blaxploitation, spaghetti western, stuff that he's promoted and talked about in various ways. Like, he's been, whenever they re-release these movies in the theaters, you usually see a Quentin Tarantino presentation, because he loves these type of films, and this movie literally feels like a homage and a tribute to those films. And this was actually supposed to be a single release, but they eventually cut it down into 2 films, which I think in the long run does hurt it. Not to say that both of the parts aren't bad, but needless to say, the best parts of this movie, and the ones that we remember the most, are in this first part right here. I mean, the scene where she's taken on the Yakuza is an awesome scene. That scene I was talking about earlier with Vivica A. Fox finding in their home, and the kids coming home from school, and they're trying to pretend like, nothing's going on. Like, you see them talking like normal in the front, and then behind you see, like, swords and knives and all that stuff. Like, that stuff is great. Not to say that the second one doesn't have memorable moments as well, but with Volume 2, it kind of felt like a letdown compared to all the stuff they were building up in here. And I think a lot of people would agree that this first movie really does have a lot of the stuff that we remember most from this. The action sequences are great. The casting overall is very good. The visuals are amazing to look at. I mean, you could definitely tell Tarantino loves his homages to these classic movies that he used to grow up with. And it does lead to a lot of really great moments in here that just still stand up after over 20 years. It's a movie that still holds up very much over time. Like I said, it's not to say that the second film was bad, but if I had to choose between that film and this film, this one would win easily. But we'll have to wait another 6 months for Kill Bill Volume 2, because that'll be on April of this next year that we'll get into once we're done with this year. So that's Kill Bill Volume 1. So how do you go from one of the most badass action movies of all time with one of the lamest kids movies ever? This is Good Boy.
For centuries, man has wondered if there is intelligent life elsewhere in the universe.
Whoa,
What was that?
sound like a sonic boom.
Now they've come to begin our training.
Testing. You hear me?
Sit. Speed. Ah!
the dogs to walk you? The secret of man's best friend
They look like people are in charge.
will be unleashed.
You don't see us picking up their poop.
Comedy.
I think that clip from the ASDF movie 9 pretty much sums up the comedy in this movie. Like, that's their idea of comedy, you know. You don't see us picking up their poop with the fake wink eye. Like, that's pretty much what you're in for with this movie. You have a story where you have Owen Baker, played by Liam Aiken, who is a 12-year-old loner who has been working as a neighborhood dog walker so he can earn the privilege of getting a dog of his own. His hard work pays off when his parents let him adopt a scruffy mutt named Hubble. Both boy and dog get more than they bargained for when Owen wakes up one morning to discover he can understand every word Hubble says. Hubble's voiced by Matthew Broderick, including the ominous phrase, "Take me to your leaders." Owen learns that dogs came to Earth thousands of years ago to colonize and dominate the planet. Hubble has been sent by the powerful Greater Dane on a mission for the Dog Star series to make sure dogs have fulfilled their destiny. Despite the best efforts of Owen's ragtag group of neighborhood dogs to convince him otherwise, Hubble soon discovers the awful truth about Earth dogs. You're all pets. Now, Owen and Hubble must work together to prepare the neighborhood dogs from a visit from the Greater Dane, or all dogs will be removed from the planet. And do you even give a shit at this point? I mean, the trailers pretty much tell you everything you need to know about what this movie is. It's a film that is trying to be something like Cats and Dogs, except Cats and Dogs is actually smart and funny, but it's a film that's trying to be like that type of a film and just fails miserably because this is written by hacks who are just trying to create their next big franchise. This was literally intended, like MGM and Jim Henson Productions. Jim Henson Productions was behind this too. I forgot to mention that, but when they announced this back in 2002, they wanted to express intentions for the film to serve as a franchise with similar expansions to series such as Beethoven, Air Bud, and Balto. One movie came from this. Beethoven, Air Bud, and Balto have had numerous movies. Pointless sequels, yes, but they still have made more movies than this garbage has done. I mean, that should pretty much tell you everything you need to know about how successful that transition was to try to turn this into the next big franchise. Didn't work very well for them, and how could it not work well when you waste such the talents as voice actors of Donald Faison, Brittany Murphy, Delta Burke, Carl Reiner, Cheech Marin, Vanessa frickin' Redgrave as the Greater Dane, an Academy Award-winning actress, one of the most recognizable actors in Hollywood, wasted as the villain and this kind of the antagonist of the film, really, because I mean, it seems like it's a film that sounds like the dog equivalent to something like The Day the Earth Stood Still, you know? Sit on the concept where they send a robot to Earth to check on to see if humanity is worth saving, except this time around, it's dogs, and not clever whatsoever. I think the jokes in that trailer pretty much sum up why this didn't work out well, and it doesn't help that the story is very generic. It's a very lackluster film. Nothing about it makes any sense whatsoever. It's a film that has some lazy effects. Like, I mean, this is Jim Henson's company. Like, you expect so much more from the Jim Henson Company than stuff like this. I mean, this is on the levels of Buddy. In fact, I would say Buddy has better special effects because at least Buddy, the effects were there. They weren't great, but at least they were there. But this just feels like a film that is just so the typical generic lackluster kids movie. It's not funny. It's not clever. It's a waste of genuine. It's so bad it's got me coughing like crazy, but it's a waste of genuinely good talent all around. I mean, Kevin Neal and Molly Shannon can be funny here. They're also in here, too. I've seen Liam Aiken be pretty good in some movies. He's great in the series of Unfortunate Events, but not in here. I mean, it's a film that just it's just a mess on so many levels. It's a movie that doesn't work. They released it in October, even though we had pretty much proven at this point that most kids' films do not do very well in the month of October. Of course, times have changed now, but back then, that was always the rule. Like, most kids' films did not do well in the month of October. They dumped this there, and lo and behold, it didn't do that well to really warrant anything of a franchise, except for the fact that we put it out there, we put money into it, hoping that it will be the next Cats and Dogs, and not the case. Not the case whatsoever. So yeah, you can go ahead and skip Good Boy if you want to. I suggest you do so, but that's just my personal take on that one. So with that said, let's move on to our next movie, and that is George Clooney and Catherine Zeta-Jones in the Coen Brothers' Intolerable Cruelty.
My God, look at it. On October 10th, I would be honored, really, if you'd have dinner with me. I thought that went well.
Comes a comedy.
I eat men like you for breakfast.
She's a giant. About the things we do for love.
Howard and I are planning to marry.
And the things love. She can't really love this dope does to us.
Now that the marriage is winding down.
Dump him. From Joel and Ethan Coen. Is that all? Intolerable cruelty.
You fasten.
So for the Coen brothers, this is probably their most mainstream released up to that point. I mean, this was a movie from the people that gave us stuff like Raising Arizona, Barton Fink, Miller's Crossing, Fargo, The Big Lebowski, and those were films that weren't really seen as commercial movies in general. But this feels like a movie that was one of those movies that felt like a mainstream movie, that felt much different compared to the usual stuff. You have George Clooney and Catherine Zeta-Jones lighting up the screen in Intolerable Cruelty, a romantic comedy about men, women, and everything that could go wrong between them. Sparks fly when brilliant divorce attorney Miles Massey, played by Clooney, meets his match in this beautiful but ruthless Marilyn Rexroth, weird name, I know, played by Catherine Zeta-Jones. You also have Billy Bob Thornton, Cedric the Entertainer, Edward Herrmann, Richard Jenkins among the cast. And like I said, the Coen brothers don't usually go mainstream very often. When they do, it can be a very mixed bag. And at least in this film's case, it is one of those ones where it doesn't quite work as well as it could have. I mean, you've got two of the most charismatic and sexiest actors working in the business. I mean, George Clooney and Catherine Zeta-Jones, which Catherine Zeta-Jones in this movie. If you don't have an idea of what I'm talking about here, just take a look at this little compilation I put together from the trailer.
Is about to a woman.
Look at her. An athlete at the peak of her powers.
Excuse me. I assume you're a comic.
Oh, Mr. Massey, you have no idea. Howard and I are planning to marry.
Help him.
I think I'm this way.
Fascinating.
Yeah, I always talk about how every once in a while there'll be something that comes up online about who looked the most sexiest without being nude or anything. And I always say my top choice for that is Paula Patton in Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol, when she's in that green dress. Like, I'm getting tingles just thinking about it. And a close second would be anytime Catherine Zeta-Jones wears anything in this movie, because my God, I don't know who did the costume designs for this, but you know what? 2 thumbs up on that one, because they make her look incredibly sexy in this. This is probably the sexiest she's ever looked on screen. Like, when she is on screen, you really cannot take your eyes off her. I mean, they did a great job of creating this insanely gorgeous-looking wardrobe that really looks good on her. And it's one of the things that does keep me coming back to this movie in general, even though I'm not the biggest fan of it, really. As far as the story and script goes, it goes kind of where you expect it to go, and no real surprises. It does kind of take the safe way out of it. There really isn't a lot of that Coen Brothers style writing here too, because I don't think they wrote this movie. I think they only were the directors on it. I think it was written by 2 other guys, Robert Ramsey and Matthew Stone. If they wrote something in it, I really did not see it very much in it, but it did feel like they were going a little too mainstream for their own good with this particular film. But the film itself isn't bad by any means necessary. It's a competently made film. It definitely could have been a whole lot better if the script had been a little bit more refined and polished, and maybe you got more of the Coen brothers adding into the script. Maybe they did. Maybe I need to watch this movie again. But, I mean, my big takeaway from it is that they did a pretty good job making Catherine Zeta-Jones look good. I mean, this is probably the hottest she's ever looked on screen. And that's saying a lot, because she has looked pretty good in other movies. But this takes the cake indeed. Plus, George Clooney will usually give 110%, even in a bad movie, that he's in. But he's fine in the movie. Both of them are fine in this. Their chemistry does, I'll give it credit, the chemistry does work well for them, but they just don't have a good script to really work off of it. So that's why I say that, yeah, it's passable. I would probably give it a mixed review. If you're a Coen Brothers fanatic, you want to see their works, it's worth it to just watch it on that front. But other than that, it's one you probably won't want to watch on repeat. I mean, like I said, you can watch the best stuff with Catherine Zeta-Jones in it anywhere. Like, you go online and find it, and you can pretty much find it there. But you really don't need to watch this movie to see all that. So that is Intolerable Cruelty. Let's go ahead and move on to our next movie, and that is Toy Boat. That is The House of the Dead.
Doesn't this bother any of you? The party's completely deserted. Is that you, Matt?
October 10.
There must be some kind of scientific explanation.
Not human.
They're everywhere!
The only way to make it back alive is to send them all back to the House of the Dead.
I've been waiting for you.
Rated R starts October 10th.
Essentially, America's introduction to the crazy, screwed-up world of Uwe Boll. Even though he had directed several movies before this was the movie that kind of woke everybody up and realized that he exists out there, and he had a major studio behind him to get this movie out. This is supposedly based on the video game franchise of the House of the Dead. It takes place on a fictional island infested by zombies, forcing survivors to fight their way off. Not a direct adaptation of the individual entries, Boll describes the film as a prequel to the 1996 game. House of the Dead was the first film by Boll to be released theatrically, in addition to his first video game adaptation. So yeah, he describes this as a prequel to the original game. Sure it is, Uwe. I mean, why would we not think that otherwise? Because this clearly does not look like another Evil Dead knockoff. No, it doesn't look like that at all. I say that sarcastically. This does look like an Evil Dead knockoff at its worst. Cabin Fever had just come out a couple weeks ago. That looked more legitimate than this movie does. But he makes them cheaply, and it did make a profit. So that's why he continued to keep pursuing over other different video game adaptations. His next masterpiece of shit would be Alone in the Dark, and then follow it up with Postal, and there was a point where he was considered to be the worst director of all time until Jason Friedrich and Aaron Seltzer said, hold our beers. And with this movie, it's kind of hard not to see why. But truth be told, certainly not as bad as some of his other works. I mean, he gets kind of the ideas of the games down. There are zombies. There's a house. There's the dead. I mean, he's kind of on the right track there. But other than that, yeah, what more could you say about this movie? This is not a good film by any means necessary, but again, not the worst he's ever done, but he's going to get worse and worse as we go along here, so I really don't think I need to say too much more about this one. That's the House of the Dead, so let's go ahead and end the show on a much better note here. How about an Oscar winner here? Clint Eastwood's Mystic River.
I know in my soul I contributed to your death, but I don't know how. The truth will come to the surface.
No more lies, no more secrets.
Critics are calling Mystic River the best movie so far this year.
The Barrier Sims hit.
Remarkable, a powerful film. It is a masterpiece.
Do you ever think about how just one little choice could change your whole life?
Mystic River, a film by Clint Eastwood. Rated R. Select cities October 8th. Everywhere October 5th.
So in the summer of 1975, in a neighborhood in Boston, three kids, Dave Boyle and his two friends, Jimmy Markham and Sean Devine, are playing on the sidewalk when Dave gets abducted by two men and endures days of sexual abuse. Eventually, Dave escapes but is traumatized to adulthood. Jimmy is an ex-con and a father of three whose daughter Katie is found dead, and Dave becomes the #1 suspect. Sean is a homicide detective investigating Katie's murder and finds himself faced with past and present demons, and more is uncovered about Katie's murder. Learning Katie had a boyfriend, ballistics later connect a gun belonging to his father to the murder, sending her boyfriend as the suspect. Will Sean find out who killed Katie? Will Jimmy make it through the investigation? And will Dave ever admit what really happened when he was abducted? All those questions are answered in this movie. This is based off the Dennis Lehan book of the same name, and it features, saw there in the commercial there, Sean Penn, Tim Robbins, Kevin Bacon, Lawrence Fishburne, Marsha Gay Harden, and Laura Linney. And this actually was nominated. He's got nominated for several Oscars, and won an Oscar for Sean Penn, one of its first two. In one of those years where he was not the best performance in general. This is, like I said before, with Lost in Translation, that should have been Bill Murray's Oscar. And when he won again in 2008 for Milk, that should have been Mickey Rourke's Oscar for The Wrestler. But we'll delve into that one over time. But saying that, Sean Penn is not bad in the movie. In fact, he does give a legitimately good performance. And you have a lot of great things about this movie that just works on so many levels. It's a great story, a great engaging story, and you have a great screenwriter in Brian Helgeland penning the script here, and it's just a compelling mystery in general. Like, you wonder where all these elements are going to. You have these three guys who clearly have been through so much turmoil throughout their years. I mean, all the way from their childhoods to adulthoods, and you just get so invested in their situations and how they handle themselves. Like, it's really hard not to get invested in it. And the performances overall are great. There's nothing really bad I can say about the film I mean, it's not a film that... This is the perfect example of an Oscar bait film done right. It's a movie that doesn't feel melodramatic. It doesn't feel too schmaltzy at times. It's a legitimately entertaining story, and one that keeps you invested in how it's going to transpire when it's all said and done. And it's a really good movie. And, you know, there's a lot of what... Clint Eastwood kind of was on somewhat of a comeback after this. Maybe not a big comeback, because there was those years in between Unforgiven and this movie where he had more misses than hits. Stuff like Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil, True Crime, Absolute Power, Blood Work. And starting with this, he was on a little bit of a rise again, because he followed this up with $1 Million Baby. He would then follow this up with, what was the next one he did after this? Flags of Our Fathers and Letters from Iwo Jima. Both great movies in their own rights. Gran Torino. When was American Sniper? American Sniper was 2014, if I'm not mistaken. So kind of around that's... I won't say that. It's like between 2003 and 2010, Clint Eastwood had kind of a renaissance to him in terms of the films he directed. And this is the first time he ever was credited as the composer of the score, too. And you know what? Didn't do a bad job on it either. So there's a lot to really appreciate about this movie. It's a very good film. Great acting all around, a great story to tell, and Clint Eastwood doing what Clint Eastwood does so well. I mean, it's a fantastic film. I can't recommend it enough. Mystic River, a truly great film.
Tell me how much you got. How much? That much? Not that much.
Hey, are you okay? They're all dead. They're dead.
I'm gonna have to call the cops, I guess.
Excuse me. I just saw something.
All right, that's it. If somebody's out there, just come on out.
What is that? The hitchhiker. What were they all doing here?
What the hell are you doing in my house?
You're gonna die.
One of the great horror movie trailers. I mean, yeah, that's me taking a video straight from the internet. But imagine you're in a movie theater in the summer of 2003, and you're watching this trailer in a movie theater that's completely dark, all the lights are out, and then this moment comes up. I don't know about anybody else, but when I saw that in the movie theater back then, that's one of those rare moments in movie theaters where I'm sitting there watching a trailer, and something like that happens, and it's just like, jeez, like I got chills watching that. Even though I'd never seen any of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre films up to that point, but this is, of course, the remake of the 1974 original, directed by Tobe Hooper, who was involved in this film as one of the producers. And it's funny because in addition to Michael Bay, guess who else is one of the producers on this? Mike Fleiss. Yeah, the man behind The Bachelor, The Bachelorette, Who Wants to Marry a Multimillionaire, history's greatest monster for trying to humanize the romantic aspects of those shows by having people acting stupid, dressing up in stupid costumes. Yeah, history's greatest monster produced this movie, and yeah, that's a fun fact for you. In fact, he's produced several horror movies. I mean, he did this. He also did many of the Hostel movies too, and also Poseidon. But this was his first film he ever produced, and unlike The Bachelor, which is one of the worst things ever, this is not really the worst thing ever. And you have a plot here, simple plot here if you've seen these movies. It follows a group of young adults traveling through rural Texas who encounter Leatherface and his murderous family. And if you've never seen the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, I like how the trailer doesn't really give you a clear indication of who's working for who, which characters are going to get out. Like when you watch that trailer for the first time, you never put it together that Arlie Ermey is somehow involved in this besides being the police officer. But the film is actually a pretty good horror remake. I mean, it's a remake of a classic movie, but it's modernized in a style that works to Michael Bay's advantages. It works to the advantages of this director, Marcus Nispel, who would do the same thing with Friday the 13th to lesser successful results. And the film knew how to keep the tension going. I mean, it's a film that's clearly also a TNA movie, because you see a lot of shots of Jessica Biel in her skimpy, in her white beater shirt and like these very low cut jeans. I mean, they aren't screwing around. They know exactly who they're going for here, and it's just a perfect Halloween movie. A film that you don't ask too much of. You know what you should be going into if you're going into this movie, and for the most part, it definitely delivers on that and then some. I mean, it's a film that's not for everyone. If you've never been a particular fan of these movies, kind of like myself, you probably wouldn't be that interested in it. But even someone like me who's never been a big fan of these movies, hasn't seen all of them really, all of them are kind of the same movie pretty much. This one's probably the best one out of all the movies that they've done, which is not really saying a whole lot when everyone that came after this, Texas Chainsaw Massacre at the beginning, Leatherface, Texas Chainsaw 3D, were all pretty bad. So, yeah, this is probably one of the better versions of the story to be told. And it led to the charge of all these different horror remakes coming out after this point. I mean, you had The House of Wax that followed after this, which was not a success. Then Friday the 13th, as I mentioned, Nightmare on Elm Street, Child's Play. I mean, this was the movie that kind of set the tone for the horror remakes that would come later on down the road here. And it's still probably one of the better ones. And even they screwed it up with the next movie they did, which was a prequel. And, yeah, that one didn't work out very well either. And that one was bad from a number of different perspectives. This is just bad on the left. This is not even that bad. It's just, for the general viewing audience who's not into these horror movies, they could see it as a bad movie in general. But for what it is, it's good. It's a good movie if you know what you're going into it. I mean, it gives you everything you want. It's straight to the point. And it makes for an entertaining film in general. Nothing too spectacular, nothing too amazing. Know what you're going into with this. You'll end up having a great time with it. So, that's Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So let's go ahead and move on to the next movie, and that is John Grisham's Runaway Jury.
Guarantee their verdict. They hired an expert from the outside.
Find something on every one of them.
But the one thing they didn't predict was someone on the inside.
The jury's mine, and I can push it either way for a price.
From the best-selling thriller by John Grisham, John Cusack, Gene Hackman,
I want you to find her.
Dustin Hoffman,
I know you're playing both sides.
Rachel Weisz.
Anyone can be gotten to.
You're losing me my jury.
Runaway Jury, directed by Gary Fleener, rated PG-13, October 17.
Based off of Grisham's 1996 novel of the same name, you have a lawyer, played by Dustin Hoffman, who's pitted against shady jury consultant Rankin Fitch, played by Gene Hackman, who uses unlawful means to stack the jurors with people sympathetic to the defense. Meanwhile, a high-stakes cat-and-mouse game begins when juror Nicholas Easter, played by John Cusack, and his girlfriend, played by Rachel Weisz, appear to be able to sway the jury to deliver any verdict they want in a trial against the gun manufacturer. It's a decent courtroom thriller. I mean, it's pretty much a straightforward courtroom thriller. It doesn't really do a whole lot in particular to make it stand out on its own or anything, but the performances are good enough, and the mystery aspect of the case itself does keep you invested all the way through. It's hard to believe this is the last John Grisham movie made based off one of his more serious books, because the next movie that would come out, the last film based off of one of his books, was Christmas with the Cranks. And, yeah, hard to believe that's actually based off of a John Grisham book, but that is indeed the case. And, we will delve more into that when we get to next year. But as far as this goes, you get pretty much what you expect with this type of film. Like I said, it doesn't do anything that new or significant. Sometimes it can feel like it's going off the rails a little bit in terms of its story, but it does keep you invested all the way through because the performances are so good and they're keeping you deep into what's going on here. And for that, you got to give it credit for that. And I think it's a film that definitely is not one of the best John Grisham adaptations. If I had to pick the best ones, probably The Firm and then The Client. But other than that, it's good. It's good. Can't really say too much more about that one. A decent legal thriller, to say the least. So, let's go ahead and move on to our next film, and that is Cate Blanchett in Joel Schumacher's second film of 2003, Veronica Guerin.
If I was to be intimidated, that means they've won, and they're not going to win.
Veronica Guerin is one of the year's best films. A compelling true story and one of the most powerful films of the year. Both heartwarming and heartbreaking. Cate Blanchett delivers an absolute Oscar-worthy performance. Electrifying, the most brilliant performance in an already brilliant career.
I don't want to do it, I have to do it.
Veronica Guerin, rated R, starts Friday, October 17th.
So this is a story about the life of Irish journalist Veronica Guerin, played by Cate Blanchett, whose investigation into the drug trade in Dublin leads to her murder in 1996 at the age of 36. And for Joel Schumacher, like I said, this was the second movie he made in 2003 following Phone Booth, which I would say is the better of the two movies, because this one, while it has a lot of good elements to it, I mean, it's got Cate Blanchett. Cate Blanchett will usually put in a very good performance no matter what you put her in. And even that good performance she has in here, playing this character, the story is very much a generic storyline, and it's actually the second time this story has been adapted to the big screen. The first one being When the Sky Falls, which stars Joan Allen in the role of Veronica Guerin. And I'd have to say, between the two of them, that one's probably the better film in general, but this one is trying its best. Like I said, it's Joel Schumacher trying to prove that, hey, I'm not a hack director who made Batman and Robin. I can make good movies, and he has proven since then that he can make good movies, but this is one of those ones where it just feels like the pieces weren't exactly there in the story department to really make it stand out any more than what this movie eventually does, because it is a film that has a lot of interesting aspects to it. This is a very intriguing storyline about this woman who delves deep into this drug trade going on here, and she gets killed because of it. It's because of it, and, you know, that should be a good storyline to follow here, but it really doesn't deliver all that much in the long run. It's a kind of a boring film. It does run a little bit too long, and even though Cate Blanchett is great in the movie, it's really not enough to save the film in general. I mean, once she leaves the picture, the film just becomes bland and just boring, and it's not really worth it when it's all said and done. So, noble effort, but I can't recommend Veronica Guerin. But I can recommend our last movie, and that is Katie Holmes and the ensemble comedy Pieces of April.
Of April.
So yeah, this is actually a Thanksgiving movie. You know, we talk about Thanksgiving movies, and usually the one that always comes to mind, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, Charlie Brown Thanksgiving, and there's not really a whole lot more after that. And there's been some good ones though. Home for the Holidays is a good one. Dan in Real Life is a very good one. That one takes place around Thanksgiving, I believe. But there have been some good ones, but not as memorable as the ones that stick out the most. Planes, Trains, and Automobiles and Charlie Brown Thanksgiving. And this is one of those ones that's definitely in the category of the ones that aren't as memorable as they should be, because this is a really good film. You have Katie Holmes starring as this woman who is about to prepare a Thanksgiving dinner for her estranged family, and she's got all these different things going on. Her family's got a lot of things going on in there. You see the cast there: Derek Luke, Sean Hayes, Allison Pill, Oliver Platt, Patricia Clarkson. Clarkson got a lot of acclaim for this. She got nominated for an Oscar and a Golden Globe for this performance, and it's hard not to see why. And speaking of Dan in Real Life, this is done by the same man who did Dan in Real Life, Peter Hedges, who also wrote the script for About a Boy. I mean, a lot of talent around here, and an intriguing, very, very good storyline with a lot of good elements of mixtures of comedy and drama thrown in there. I mean, it's a really good, thought-provoking film in general. It's a film that really features the highlights of very good performances. You see that Katie Holmes does have a potential as an actress, and she would show that in some other movies down the road here, even if the films were not that great. she would usually turn in a very good performance in general. I felt she kind of got a lot of flack, especially in something like Batman Begins, where people really got on her, and they had to replace her with Maggie Gyllenhaal in the next movie, which did work out in the end for The Dark Knight. But I don't know. I didn't think she was that bad in Batman Begins, but that's a whole other thing altogether that we can delve into. But in here, she does have a lot of charisma. She shows a lot of grace in here. She is very good in the role. The film is very intense. It's a mixture of very heavy stuff, very funny stuff, just like what this guy did with Dan in real life. That one more on a mainstream level. This is more on the line of what you would expect for an independent movie like this. And it is a very good film in general. I thought it was I thought it was very enjoyable. I thought it worked all the way through. All the performances are great. The feel of Thanksgiving is definitely all throughout this. I really liked it. I think it's a very underrated little gem. One that's definitely worth checking out. Pieces of April.
There is a videotape. If you watch it, 7 days later.
Oh, man.
Will be 1 week from today.
Heard about this videotape? The one where they do it on the boat, and then in the car, and then in the bathtub, and he's like, hey baby, I love you. And she, no, not that tape.
And as soon as it's over, your phone rings. And a creepy voice says,
You're gonna die in...
what? Really nice?
Gay.
Who's gay?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, perfect.
3 times the terror.
A mysterious crop circle appeared in local farmer Tom Logan's cornfield.
Oh, come on. You know those things are just a hoax.
Call it women's intuition or ESPN or both. But I can tell when danger's near. I just...
3 times the suspense.
The room is secure, Mr. President.
Or is it?
Sir?
What if the aliens could take over human bodies?
Could be any one of these people.
Move slowly toward the exit.
It's happening. I knew it. You'll never take me alive. She's scrambling my brain. I got a dream. What is your dream? To have a dream. I'm a white boy, but my neck is red. I put Miracle Whip on my Wonder Bread. So, what do we think?
I don't know what I'm doing here. This is totally pathetic.
Scary Movie 3.
Where's my daughter?
Are you mad? I am your daughter.
I didn't touch her, I swear. I don't believe you.
Please, for God's sake. She's a girl.
Reloaded for a 3rd shot.
Who are you?
I am Morpheus.
Rabbit!
I believe this evening we will find...
What are you still doing here?
Please, LaQuisha. I'm prophesizing.
Well, I'm prophesizing my foot halfway up your...
Well, I'm prophesizing that Queen Latifah and Eddie Griffin do not look like that in this movie. In fact, they don't really have a Matrix scene in this movie with those two in particular. They're sort of with Eddie Griffin dressed up in the same costume that you see in that in the trailer, but the big Matrix parody comes when George Carlin appears as the architect, when Cindy has to go to the lighthouse, and she goes inside, and it's all of a sudden the architect from the Matrix Reloaded, which I guess it was a scene they added in later on because of the fact that I guess that character took off in particular. In fact, this whole movie had a lot of things going on behind the scenes, like Anthony Anderson's character turned out to be so popular in test screenings that he had to be rewritten into the film with more scenes, and they were shooting it while the film was already in post-production. But Scary Movie 3, you have here a mysterious killer tape circling around the ring. Once look at this tape, and you have 7 days left to live. And news reporter Cindy Campbell, once again played by Anna Faris, witnesses the videotape and tries to work out a way to prevent her death. But this is not the only mystery to appear. Crop circles have been appearing in the local farm for Tom, played by Charlie Sheen, and George, played by Simon Rex. And with help from Aunt Shaniqua, played by Queen Latifah, by the way, that's Signs, by the way, Cindy suspects that the aliens may be linked with the killer tape and now must work out both mysteries before it's the end of the world. Oh, and Simon Rex is also trying to have a rap career, which basically is 8 Mile. But, yeah, those are 3 of the main parodies in here. They also parody stuff like The Others. Like I said, The Matrix Reloaded. But this is the first one without the Wayans brothers involved. And, quite honestly, controversial opinion, these are probably my favorite ones in the series. Maybe it's because I'm such a David Zucker fan. I love the airplane movies. I love the Naked Gun movies so much. Yeah, it's not that same caliber of comedy, but it's still much funnier than a majority of the spoof movies that are about to come out after this point. I mean, this is a film that is so... There's just so many things about it that I love about it so much. I think it's very funny stuff. It's got that Zucker Brothers style of comedy that's still very stupid but very smart at the same time. Like, I never pinpointed it until many, many times after I'd seen this movie that, Cameron Manheim plays the cop, and he was talking to Charlie Sheen all the time, and he was there when his wife got murdered, and she's wearing this hat. I never put it together until just the last couple times I've watched it that in the first scene you see her with, that hat she's wearing gets bigger every time that they change it, that they go to another scene with her. Like, could not believe I did not see that. See that the first time around, and you think it's going to be something that's going to run throughout the entire movie, but it's only something that happens one time in the beginning. But Charlie Sheen's very good in the movie too. In fact, this was a big comeback year for him because he had this, and then he had 2.5 Men go on at the same time. And Charlie Sheen is just perfect for these type of movies because he did it so well with Hot Shots, and just everything about this movie is just so... It's stupid. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever at times, but it's still really freaking funny. This is the kind of humor I like. Leslie Nielsen as the president. I mean, like, anytime Leslie Nielsen's on screen in this movie, he steals the show. Like, he's the only guy in this movie that could get away with doing some pretty stuff that would be kind of controversial today, like rapping, quoting Tupac lyrics, or doing the hey how are you type of thing. But Leslie Nielsen makes it work because he is so committed to the craft here, and he just plays it so straight. I mean, what other actor around Leslie Nielsen's age can go around saying, these men died for their country, send flowers to their bitches and hoes, and play it so seriously? That's the power of what Leslie Nielsen brings to the table here. All of his scenes are hilarious. I mean, when he's punching the special ed kids, that's just... this is a funny film. I mean, I really mean it when I say that I do love the Zucker Brothers scary movies over the Wayans Brothers movies. I mean, these movies get so ridiculously stupid whenever the Zucker Brothers take over, and it's just really funny stuff. I mean, this is the style of comedy that I'm so used to, and it just works. It just works on so many levels. I mean, I get more laughs out of these movies. These are PG-13 sequels too, and those are rare. For an R-rated movie that has PG-13 sequels, that's usually a death sentence right there. But not with the scary movie films. They actually got better with it. Is when you put them in there. Like, I mean, what more can I say, man? These are just really funny movies whenever the Zucker Brothers are involved in. Again, my personal opinion, these are definitely the better movies. This probably is my favorite one of the series, considering that Scary Movie 4 is kind of a lesser film, and in terms of the story, it doesn't really connect as well as it does here. They do actually a pretty good job of connecting the story in this particular movie compared to what they do in the next movie, but at the same time, it's still a really fun film. I really love this movie a lot. Scary Movie 3, what more can I say? Next up is a comedy. Surely it wasn't intentional, but it's hilarious to think about this. Here's Cuba Gooding Jr. in the biggest mistake of his year in 2003. You thought Boat Trip was the worst thing he did? Boat Trip actually has some value to it. Radio does not.
We do things as a team, gentlemen. Full speed!
In a town driven by competition.
Coach, you reckon these are the boys gonna take us back to state?
If I was to tell you that, y'all wouldn't have anything to talk about.
The last thing anyone wanted
Getting home late.
Can't you just make room for your daughter and football?
was a distraction.
Hey, Einstein, throw it over here. Come on, throw it. Hey, coach, he took our ball.
That boy has been rolling by here for a long time now.
No, I don't want the football. Why don't you bring about practice today? I'll find you something to do. See the young man over there? He goes by Radio. He's going to be helping us out for a while. What exactly is wrong with him?
be the same as everybody else, just a little slower than most.
It's radio. Put that up and on.
Just grab something.
Come on, Dimmer.
Those look fine, radio.
Okay.
You got yourself a distraction needs dealing with.
Quite a show you put on out there tonight, Coach. Just wonder if you run a football program or a social club.
We're not going to be able to take you on a bus today. Some folks that just don't understand you, but they're going to catch on, believe me.
Why on earth are you doing this?
I figure it's the right thing to do.
Gary Powers is released from the Soviet Union. True or false? What'd you say, radio?
I know we haven't had much chance to talk to you.
Radio needs what you're doing more than I do.
You play with heart and never stop believing in each other.
It's just bad if we do things the way we used to.
You take him out of this school, you might as well just take his life from him.
I'm not so sure we're trying to help somebody here. Never a mistake to care for someone.
Well, the truth is, we're not the ones been teaching radio. Radio's the one been teaching us.
I'm sorry, but if you're not laughing at that point when he's lifting his arms up in the air in the shopping cart doing the Shawshank Redemption moment, then you clearly do not see the hilarity of this, of why this movie is so terrible. This is the definition of a never go full retard film, because you have a movie like this, and that whole trailer is just hilariously bad on so many levels. Like, like they give Cuba Gooding Jr. the buck teeth and all that. Like they make fun of the fact that he's mentally challenged, so he has retard strength, like that type of stuff. And then you got to have those moments that are supposed to be like the heartfelt moments of the film, and it just comes off as really fucking stupid, because this is a really bad movie. The article and the movie, this is based off of an article on Sports Illustrated called Something to Lean On, based on the true story of T.L. Hanna High School football coach Harold Jones, a young man with an intellectual disability. Gee, haven't heard that one before. I'm sorry, Harold Jones is the football coach, played by Ed Harris, and the young man with the intellectual disability is James Robert Radio Kennedy, played by Cuba Gooding Jr. And, so not only is it a movie where you never go full retard, but it's a film that is literally the Dead Poet Society thing again. It's Dangerous Minds. Like, he's not only mentally challenged, but he needs help in his educational abilities, so we're going to help him out. And the movie just comes off as a really big, disastrous mess of a film. And like, it would make even the real radio look at this and go, what the hell was I thinking saying yes to this? But it's just wasting too many good, talented people in here. I mean, Deborah Winger's in this movie. Eva Merkerson from Law & Order's in here. Alfre Woodard is in this movie. Talented people being wasted on a film that is so... We want an Oscar so badly. I mean, it's like, this is the definition of an Oscar bait movie at its absolute worst, because it's a movie that is literally... Here's why I think this is worse than Boat Trip, because Boat Trip is a bad film. But Boat Trip has those little brief flashes of promise and funny moments where you can look at it and go, you know what, this is not a good movie, but there's at least something of value there to it. But this is the bottom of the barrel. This is Cuba Gooding Jr.'s Geely. I mean, and Geely had moments where it had some brief flashes of promise, even though that movie was complete garbage as well. But this did to Cuba Gooding Jr. what Geely did to Ben Affleck. It made him on the blacklist for a number of different years. Like, people did not want to hire him for anything. It took Cuba Gooding Jr. 10 years to get a legitimately big role again in Lee Daniels' The Butler. That's how long it took between this movie and that movie to get the attention that he had before this. Like, this is... What more can I say, man? This is complete garbage. This is a film that is just bad on so many levels. Like, this is a film that tries to play with your emotions so hard, it's a bad school bad help teacher movie. It's a bad movie about somebody who has a mental disability, retardation. Like, it's everything bad about movies like this. This is why Robert Downey Jr. did the thing he had to do in Tropic Thunder with that speech of never going full retard. You know, he had to say it, but Ben Stiller was the one that wrote it. So yeah, this is the reason why Tropic Thunder, I believe, exists, just so they can make that scene in Tropic Thunder, because this is what that scene was talking about. Movies like this just, they make you mad at somebody of these caliber talented people are wasting their time on this garbage. This is garbage, plain and simple. So yeah, that is Radio, and not good indeed. But maybe we could turn the tide with our next movie, and that's Angelina Jolie in Beyond Borders.
He's our team leader and full-time doctor.
From the moment they met,
People's lives depend on us.
his cause became her mission.
What are you going to do when the food runs out?
25,000. Now,
Nick has disappeared.
survival has become her obsession.
I'm not leaving until I find him.
October 24th,
You say you're a CIA agent?
she will risk everything
I want to know where Nick is.
for one man.
If anything happens to her,
Beyond Borders, rated R, Monday, October 24th, in theaters everywhere.
And once again, I got my actors wrong. It's not Gerard Butler, like I said last time. That's Clive Owen. But Beyond Borders is the epic tale of the turbulent romance between two star-crossed lovers set against the backdrop of the world's most dangerous hotspots. Angelina Jolie stars as Sarah Jordan, an American living in London in 1984. She's married to Henry Balfour, son of a wealthy British industrialist. When she encounters Nick Callahan, a renegade doctor, his impassioned plea for help to support his relief efforts in war-torn Africa moves her deeply. As a result, Sarah embarks upon a journey of discovery that leads to danger, heartbreak, and romance in the far corners of the world. This is directed by Martin Campbell, who has been a good action director as of late. He's made GoldenEye, Mask of Zorro, and Vertical Limit up to that point. He would later follow this up with Casino Royale, which is a great movie. This is one of those ones where the ambitions were definitely there. The execution just didn't work out in the long run. I mean, it's a movie that has a lot of things about it that should work in general, but at least you could say this about Tomb Raider, The Cradle of Life. They were at least trying to do something in that one, trying to do something in that movie. Angelina Jolie here is just kind of doing nothing in here. It's just kind of a lifeless film in general, and yeah. They're trying to use the human suffering of war-torn Africa back then as the backdrop for it, and for romance. Like, this is trying to, this is trying to be like this decade's Out of Africa, and they try to do Out of Africa again in the 90s with Havana, which didn't work out that well, but at least had some ambition to it. This really does not. It's a film that does not really have a motivation of where it wants to go, and it just really kind of falls apart at the worst possible time. I mean, this is a film that has so much good talent involved, but there's just not enough there to really cement this as a film that kind of needs to be seen. It's just kind of like, okay, so you got Angelina Jolie and Clive Owen. Are you going to do anything important with them? No? I mean, maybe if it had a better writer to it, maybe it could have worked, but not in this case. So that is Beyond Borders. So let's go ahead and move on to our next movie, which is actually a limited release because this will be released wide the next weekend. And I'll talk about that in a second because that's an interesting story there. Disney's Brother Bear.
The world is full of magic. Winter turns to spring. Small things become big. One thing always changes into another. Walt Disney Pictures presents an all-new motion picture event.
Are we there yet? Don't make me turn this formation around.
You have no idea what they are.
You just talked.
Just back away. Real slow like.
What's going on? What? How's it going, Bear?
I'm not a bear. Well, gee, you're one big beaver.
Who kidding? I'm a man.
I was transformed into a bear, magically.
But crazy.
Do either of you know where the lights touch the earth? Yeah, no. No.
Hey, I know that place.
You do?
Yeah, follow me. My name's Coda. Stay with me. Coda. I don't want to brag or nothing, but I'm a raging ball of brown fur.
Oh, really? This November. Keep all that cuddly bear stuff to a minimum, okay, kid?
The truth is, I got separated from my mom.
See through another's eyes.
Those monsters are really scary, especially with those sticks.
Feel through another's heart.
Coda, don't be afraid.
And discover the meaning of brotherhood.
I always wanted a brother.
Coda!
Kino, look out!
Walt Disney Pictures presents Brother Bear.
Beauty, eh? Beauty. If you're only going to see one movie this year...
Wait, if they're only seeing one movie a year, it's pretty much too late for this group, because there's one starting in 2 minutes, eh?
Oh, no, it's not too late. Hey, you people who are only going to see one movie a year, get out now. Go, eh? I see some of them leaving anyway.
Oh, good.
Maybe let's just go to the bathroom.
Or maybe they're going to find that Nemo kid. That was actually an alternative line. If you saw trailers after finding Nemo in the theaters, they would go like, okay, I see people walking away now. Maybe they're going to find that Nemo kid, because that was apparently the 2003 had a lot of movies that had to throw in the fact that Finding Nemo came out in 2003, because a couple weeks from now we'll have Looney Tunes Back in Action that literally has a line where Bugs says, "Hey, I found Nemo," like that type of stuff. But this is Brother Bear, and it's interesting what happened with this particular film, because Disney decided to open this on November 1st, 2003, which was a Saturday, instead of releasing it on Halloween on October 31st. I guess the thinking is that, Halloween is that day, people are going to be out trick-or-treating, nobody's going to want to go to the movies, so we'll release it on Saturday and hope for the best. And didn't do too bad, considering it only had 2 days is on its opening weekend. Almost $20 million isn't nothing to scream about. Is nothing to be too upset about, at least until you look at the budget for this, which... Actually, the budget wasn't too bad. $46 million. I thought this was one of those... I could have sworn I thought this was one of those ones where the budget was actually much bigger, and it actually turned out to not be a profitable film. But, truth be told, it did pretty well, all things considered. But, that's the box office side of things. Let's talk about the movie itself. You have a story here where you have Joaquin Phoenix as an Inuit boy named Kenai, whose pursuit of a bear in revenge for a battle that he provoked in which his older brother was killed. And he tracks it down, kills it, but the spirits, angered by this needless death, change Kenai into a bear himself as punishment. In order to be human again, Kenai must travel to a mountain where the northern lights touch the earth and learn to see through another's eyes, feel through another's heart, and discover the meaning of brotherhood. Disney was apparently so wanting this to work, because they not only did the story once, they did it twice with Brave, and I guess it worked the second time because Brave won an Oscar for Best Animated Feature, which I personally think that Wreck-It Ralph should have won it that year. But hey, at least it worked that time. But in this is one of those ones where it's another one of those style over substance movies where several aspects are really great, but the film really lacks in other aspects. I mean, it's the story here. I mean, it's way too predictable. It's pretty much a buddy comedy, and you can pinpoint every single aspect of the story from a mile away. There's no surprise over the course of the film whatsoever. But not only that, the way the songs are put in here are poorly done. I mean, this is Phil Collins once again working on the music here, and I mean, this is his follow-up to Tarzan. And the songs are good. I mean, there is legitimately one good song in this movie that is criminally underrated. Take a Look Through My Eyes, which, that's probably my favorite song in the entire movie. But the songs are bad. They're poorly placed in really bad areas. They place these songs over moments where the situation itself should be at the center of the attention. There's a crucial scene where the revelation of the story takes place, and like Kenai's telling the story to Coda, the little bear he meets with, played by Jeremy Suarez from the Bernie Mac show, and it should be this moment where the tide turns and you feel the character for coming out and telling the truth about a situation, but it doesn't have the emotional impact when you have Phil Collins' music playing over the background that just does not fit whatsoever. It is really... I could not believe that they thought that was a good idea, because it just takes away what should be the powerhouse moment of the entire movie and just ruins it by just adding a layer there that did not need to be there. It's just bad the way they put that in there. I mean, the voice work overall is good. I don't think the voice chemistry between Phoenix and Suarez works that great, but you have a lot of good things about it there. There are good things about it. The animation is really good. This is actually the last traditional cell animated movie Disney did, and then this was actually the third and final film done at Disney MGM Studios before they shut that down. And, you know, there is so much going for it, but it just can't find a good enough story that's different or unique to make it work overall. It really isn't a bad movie, but it certainly isn't a masterpiece either. It's just kind of run-of-the-mill, but for Disney, hey, it made them money back, so I guess it worked out in the end. But then again, their next movie, not so much. So, and that's not even that far away. We're about, what, 6 months away from getting to the next Disney animated classic, if you will, that was not so successful. And we'll get to that one, because that one has a lot of implications for what was to come next for Disney. But as far as Brother Bear goes, not great. I mean, has some elements to... It's not a terrible film, but certainly not a masterpiece either. So let's go ahead and move on to our next movie, which is Meg Ryan in The Cut.
Police detectives investigating a girl's murder.
Crime too close to home. The body's found outside her window. The cop too close for comfort.
It could be whatever you want me to do.
Fall's most anticipated film.
One of the girls been murdered as a
First-class thriller.
He's a liar.
From Academy Award winner Jane Campion, Meg Ryan is a revelation, unabashedly sexy. The performance is absolutely flawless. The Cut, rated R, starts October 22nd in New York and LA. Opens October 20th.
Yeah, the only reason this movie has any reason to be called the most anticipated movie of the fall was because Meg Ryan gets naked in it. That's literally what the big controversy was at the time. Oh, Meg Ryan's going to get naked in this. And that was literally the only reason why anybody was even really giving a crap about this movie. Because it's not that great of a film. This is directed by Jane Campion, who has done much better movies than this. And you have Meg Ryan starring as an English teacher who becomes personally entangled with a detective played by Mark Ruffalo, so Sally Bang the Hulk in this, I guess, investigating a series of gruesome murders in her Manhattan neighborhood. And this is a film that just, I mean, like I said, it's a film that only existed because of the fact that Meg Ryan had never done a nude scene before, and this was like the big thing that she was taking on an erotic thriller to do that type of stuff. And it's just like it really, like, you can't just sell a movie on that aspect alone. You have to have an engaging storyline to work with. I mean, Basic Instinct is the definition of an erotic thriller that works, because you not only get the TNA, but you also get an intriguing mystery, you get an intriguing storyline, you get characters that you want to get behind. You don't want to get behind any of these characters whatsoever and what they're trying to accomplish here. It's pretty easy to figure out what the climax is going to be like, and if you want to see those new scenes, you can just go online and find them. I mean, they're so easy to find. Just type in The Cut nude scenes. Boom, there you go. Like, you have no reason to watch this movie in particular, especially when you have to sit there for 2 hours of just nothingness. Like, this is a film that is just, it's boring. It's a boring movie that has nothing of value to it whatsoever. It's one of those movies where it was bad when it came out. I still think it's bad now, but apparently a lot of people think it's not. No, it's had this reappraisal over the years, and like, I just don't see it. I just really did not see it. I just saw it as the movie where everyone was making a big deal about Meg Ryan's boobs being out. That's it. I mean, that's literally everything about this movie that I knew about it. And when I finally got to watch it, that's all I pretty much saw. And it's just like, wow, I could have just gone online and watched this without even wasting my time on this movie. I mean, it's not a good movie. It's just not a good film at all. It's just a really lackluster story. The mystery isn't all that interesting. The erotic scenes are not that interesting whatsoever. Wasting a great cast. It includes Jennifer Jason Leigh and Kevin Bacon among it too. And you just expect more from Jane Campion. This just felt like a movie where they tried to sell it on one particular thing, and it just really didn't work in the long run. So that is In the Cut. Let's go ahead and move on to our next movie, Gus Van Sant's Elephant. Well, you could say that Gus Van Sant's back in form here. I mean, maybe not the best form in general, but this is a story that takes place in Watts High School in the suburbs of Portland, Oregon, and chronicles the events surrounding a school shooting, heavily inspired by the Columbine High School massacre of 1999. The film begins a short time before the shooting occurs, following the lives of several characters both in and out of school, who are unaware of what is about to unfold. And you have a lot of different new actors in here: John Robinson, Alex Frost, and this is actually the second film of Gus Van Sant's Death Trilogy, the first one being Gary, and the second one being, the last one being Last Days, which all were based on actual events. Now, surprisingly, the film was controversial for its subject matter, and allegations of influence on the Red Lake shootings of, when was those? About a couple years after this movie came out in March of 2005. As far as this film goes, I haven't seen it in full, but the stuff I've seen, it's fine. Like, it's definitely not Gus Van Sant's best work in general, but compared to what he did with Psycho a couple years ago, he's back in full form here. Even if the movie's not that great, I would still rather watch something like this over something like Psycho again. And it's not that it's a bad movie in general. There's a lot of things about it that are good, but it just really doesn't have a purpose to it. It's just like, hey, let's make a movie inspired by these events, and it'll just write itself, and it just really doesn't feel like it goes that way. It just kind of feels like, you know, it just doesn't really, there's not really enough there from the little bits that I've seen from it to make me say, I want to watch this in full. This just feels like a film that, it feels like a film that, kind of like Schindler's List or 12 Years a Slave, where I'll really like it, but it's one of those movies that I'll probably never watch again because it's so depressing to watch them. But they're great movies anyway, but I feel like this movie could be that. I've never really had the urge to watch this in full. I mean, it could be good, but I don't know. From the little bits I've seen from it, it looks promising, but not much more I can add to that one here. I mean, it looks promising enough, but I don't know if I'm ever going to watch it in full. So that is Elephant. Let's go ahead and move on to our last movie here, and that is the Mel Gibson-produced, Robert Downey Jr. star, The Singing Detective. Another great, underrated Robert Downey Jr. movie. When hospitalized with an extreme case of psoriasis, novelist Dan Dark, played by Downey Jr., reworks his first book in his head. Feverish, paranoid, and prone to musical outbreaks, he confuses himself with his protagonist, a detective investigating the murder of a prostitute in 1950s Los Angeles. This is a film that features a star-studded cast, including David Dorfman from The Ring, Robin Wright Penn, Jeremy Northam, Katie Holmes, Mel Gibson, Adrian Brody, John Polito, Carla Gugino, Saul Rubinek, Alfre Woodard, Eddie Jones. Just terrific, terrific cast. This is actually based off of a BBC serial of the same name. In fact, the person that wrote this movie. So it's essentially an American adaptation of this. And like I said, man, it's a criminally underrated Robert Downey Jr. movie. It's a film where he just shows that, you know, he was in a bad place in his life around this time. You know, he had the drug abuse problems and all that. But this was, Kiss Kiss Bang Bang may have been the film that officially started the return for him, but this was kind of a precursor to him coming back in glory because, you know, here's a film where he really gets to show what makes him so great as an actor. And, like, he can be very funny, he can be very serious. The film is just a ton of fun to watch from the visual perspective, from watching the cast work together here. Mel Gibson is really good in this movie. He's given this performance that seems so unlike Mel Gibson, and that's really one of the best things about the movie is that you have people here acting unusually different for the most part, and I think it works on so many levels. It was a movie that I think was underappreciated in its time, but, man, it just works in the long run. It's a great film. I really enjoyed it. I think it's a criminally underrated Robert Downey Jr. film, which he's made a ton of them. But this is definitely high up on the ones that you should definitely check out. I highly recommend The Singing Detective.
A respected professor at the top of his field, but in a moment, everything will change. This Friday,
It's my ex-husband. You can't go out there. He's crazy.
uncover the mystery of the film Lex Reed calls brilliant. You're gonna kill him? Oh, yes. Sexy and provocative. Rolling Stone raves Hopkins and Kidman are mesmerizing.
I see everything. Imagine you kept seeing this with me.
You never know. The Human Stain, rated R, opens Friday select cities.
The Human Stain is the story of Coleman Silk, played by Sir Anthony Hopkins, who's a classics professor with a terrible secret that is about to shatter his life in a small New England town. One his affair with a young troubled janitor, played by Nicole Kidman. Already you start to see some of the problems coming into play here, but When his affair with a young, troubled janitor played by Nicole Kidman is uncovered, the secret Silk had harbored for over 50 years from his wife, his children, his colleague, and writer Nathan Zuckerman, played by Gary Sinise, fast explodes in a conflagration of devastating consequences. It is Zuckerman who stumbles upon Silk's secret and sets out to reconstruct the unknown biography of this eminent, uptight man, esteemed as an educator for nearly all of his life, and to understand how this ingeniously contrived life became unraveled. This is a very ingeniously contrived movie because, let's get to one of the first things wrong with the film right off the bat. You do not cast Nicole Kidman as a janitor. Like, I don't care how young you try to play her as, and Nicole Kidman can play any role she wants to, but it's Nicole Kidman, and she's playing a janitor. Like, I don't even have to have read the book to know how stupid that is. But wait. It gets stupider because, this guy played by Anthony Hopkins, he's having a second divorce. He's dealing with a battle of Now, this is actually Gary Sinise, I'm sorry. Gary Sinise is the one who has the second divorce, and he's got a battle with prostate cancer, so he's got a ton of problems on his own. But what Anthony Hopkins is in this movie, this is, he's forced to resign after being accused of making a racist remark in class, and his wife died suddenly after the events of the scandal, and he wants to avenge his loss of career and companion by writing a book about the events of Nathan's assistants. And flashbacks of Coleman's life. Now, this is where this thing goes completely off the wall here. Flashbacks of Coleman's life reveal to the audience his secret, and that is, he's an African-American who has passed as a white Jewish man for most of his adult life. Let that sink in for just a moment. The guy that was forced to resign after being accused of making a racist remark in class we find out that his secret is that he's an African-American who has been passed as a white Jewish man for most of his life. Anthony Hopkins is an African-American in this movie. Start to see the problem with the movie here. This is, like I said, I haven't read the book this is based off of, but even the people who haven't read the book can look at this and go like, what the hell is going on here? This is one of the stupidest movies I have ever seen. So, because Anthony Hopkins is an African-American, he's got the right to say whatever he wants, any racist remark he wants to. I mean, that's basically what the movie is all leading up to here. It's just like, he can say what he wants to because technically he's black. It's like Peter Griffin, Peter Griffin can get away with it because he's half black. But yeah, it sounds good on paper, but then you realize that in real life, you try to do this in real life. Try to pull this off in real life. You know what's going to happen? Not what happens in this movie here. This film is amazing for how bad it really is. For just the contrivances in its plot, the story in general, the poor casting choices all around here. I'm sorry, Nicole Kidman as a janitor is one thing, but casting Anthony Hopkins as a white Jewish guy who's black, you took a British guy and his whole thing is supposed to be he's black. It's just like nothing about this makes any sense whatsoever. And, it's just, I'm getting flabbergasted just thinking about this movie again. This is one of those experiences where somebody looked at this, we've got a director who directed an Oscar winner, Kramer vs. Kramer, Robert Benton. You've got Nicholas Meyer, who's written a ton of stuff that is beloved, a lot of great stuff. I mean, this is the guy that did The Day After. This is the guy that wrote some of the best Star Trek movies. I mean, this is the guy that wrote The Prince of Egypt. I mean, this is a guy that has written so many great movies over the course of his career. You have all the pieces together, but this is just one of the stupidest casting decisions I have ever seen for a film ever. Like Anthony Hopkins and Nicole Kidman alone are what's wrong with the film. Not because they're bad in it, they're just horribly miscast in this. This is a film that can't work with this cast in line here. If it was anybody else in these two roles besides Hannibal Lecter and Chase Meridian, probably would have worked out better. But because those two are in this role, in the roles that they're in roles that clearly do not work to this film's advantages whatsoever, this is a terrible, terrible movie. This is an unbelievable mess of a movie that somehow got even worse as time went on. I mean, at the beginning it didn't seem like it was that bad, but as time went on, you really start to think about this, And reading a little bit from the synopsis of the original book, it's just like what were they thinking when they made this movie? I mean, this is an unmitigated disaster on so many levels. And October had a bunch of unmitigated disasters in terms of film, but this is probably up there with some of the worst movies of the month easily. This is a bad film. This is a really, really bad film, The Human Stain. So let's go ahead and try to go back on the positive note here. Let's talk about the re-release of a classic movie that came out this particular weekend, the director's cut version of it, and that is, of course, Ridley Scott's Alien.
I've never seen anything like it.
Let's get out of here. It's not this now. It must go on. We have to go on.
Wait a minute, this movement seems to have life.
I love how the ending of that is probably the least scariest thing in that trailer when you really watch the movie in general. I mean, all the other scenes in that movie are generally terrifying, especially the noise when the title card comes up, because that's a scene that's like one of those scenes. That's one of those things where I talked about in the review I just did for Alien. I'm talking about the movies where that noise from where that scene comes from still is much more terrifying than this trailer lets on here. But this is a director's cut version of Alien. In fact, this is actually one of many alternate versions and director's cuts that Ridley Scott has done here. And Fox basically asked Ridley Scott to come back and digitally restore and remaster Alien and restore several scenes which have been cut during the film and the editing process for inclusion in the expanded version of the film. And to give you kind of an idea of what was added in here, this restores roughly 4 minutes of deleted footage, which it actually cuts about 5 minutes of other material. So you're basically just losing a minute more with the stuff that they cut out of here. It's actually a minute shorter than the theatrical cut, obviously, but there are many changes to the film that are minor, such as altered special effects, sound effects. There's trimming of some shots to speed up the film's pace. They actually removed the what are my chances scene from Tom Skerritt, which that's really one of those scenes where it's just like, that's no reason for that scene to be cut out of there when you really look at it. But the restored footage also includes the scene in which Ripley discovers the cocoon Dallas and Brett during their escape from the Nostromo, which is in and of itself a cool scene in general. So it's definitely a very mixed bag. I mean, it's not E.T. 20th anniversary bad, but it's not like Superman 2, the Richard Donner cut, good either. It's just like, I mean, it's a version that it's a director's cut, and it's kind of, I mean, it does feel like something that is trimmed down from the original movie, which I think is a much better outing than the original film is. I mean, than the director's cut is, I should say. But it's just, I feel personally like the director's cut was not that great. But I am glad to say that at least that you can see the original version and the director's cut to see the better version. I think most people could agree the original version is much better. The slow burn of the scenes in that original cut works so much better than the faster pacing in this director's cut here. And yeah, director's cut, a faster pace overall, but, you know, trimming up scenes to move it along. Okay, I get that, but removing scenes like the scene where, like the scene I was talking about, the One of My Chances scene, like, that may seem like a little scene that's not important to the storyline here, but that is important really when it's all said and done, and it's just, I mean, like I said, it's not a bad director's cut, it's just a director's cut that just doesn't feel like a version that really should have been trimmed like that. I mean, like I said, there are, but like I said, every version of Alien is out there. It's not like Star Wars where George Lucas is Ridley Scott purposely hiding it somewhere. It's all out there, so you can judge for yourself. And I personally would say that the original version of Alien still holds up much better than the director's cut does, easily. But that's just my personal take on it. The whole point, I mean, regardless, Alien is just a classic film. I've already gone in depth of my thoughts on the movie. If you want to go check that out, I'll put a link to it up in the corner here. I believe this is where the corner will be at, or if it's not there, over there. One of those two areas right there. But you can go ahead and watch my original review there. So that's the Alien director's cut. Let's move on now, people. Let's move on to the last movie we have here, and that is Hayden Christensen in Shattered Glass.
Hayden Christensen.
You're my editor. You're supposed to support me.
Peter Sarsgaard.
This thing blows. There isn't going to be a magazine anymore.
I didn't do anything wrong. You saw my notes. Everything was in there.
They're going to have all this, too.
I didn't do anything wrong. I really wish you'd stop saying that.
Shattered Glass.
So Shattered Glass is a biographical drama about Stephen Glass, played by Hayden Christensen, and a scandal at the New Republic, written and directed by Billy Ray. The film is based on the 1998 Vanity Fair article of the same name by H.D. Bissinger, who later would go on to write Friday Night Lights, and chronicles Gates' fall from grace when his stories were discovered to be fabricated. Hayden Christensen stars as Glass, Peter Sarsgaard, Chloe Sevigny, Steve Zahn, Rosario Dawson, Melanie Linsky, Hank Azaria are in this movie. And this film may have not done well at the box office, but for Hayden Christensen, shows that the guy has a lot of acting chops. I mean, yeah, he doesn't play it well with Darth Vader in the Star Wars prequels, but here's a movie that shows that he's got the talent and the chops to work it, and he really makes it work in this movie. He plays a great portrayal of Stephen Glass. This is a very interesting story in general about a guy whose whole life is just completely falling to pieces because he can't stop lying about everything. And he's got a great cast around him to work with: Skarsgård, Sevigny, Dawson, Zahn. I mean, all terrific in their own ways. And the film is very engaging. It's very intense. It's very intriguing to watch. And Billy Ray is a very good filmmaker overall. He directed another underrated movie that came out a couple years later, Breach. He wrote, of course, The Hunger Games. He wrote Captain Phillips. I mean, just a lot of talent there, and it shows on screen here. It's a very engaging storyline. It's a very good story movie in particular. It's a shame that nobody went to go and see it. I mean, it was a film that should have gotten more attention than it probably deserved, mostly because of what Christensen brings to the table here. And it shows that, hey, the guy has what it takes to be a good actor. I mean, you take him out of a bad project and put him in something like this, here you go. He's got a chance to show you what he's made of, and he works great in here. It's a really good film. I do recommend it in general. Very underrated film, Shattered Glass.